Okay, we are live once again. And just when we thought it was boring and couldn't go on, we're in the middle of another war. Uh, I guess it was inevitable. They were talking about it happening, but I guess Saturday it started. So we'll see how that throws the economy and interrupts our everyday lives here. Oh, but snowstorms have ended and weather's gotten back. Good morning, Tim. And good morning. Been able to get out. I may be able to get to the range. I have some range videos from the other week. Uh, I actually tested out that scope that goes on the carry handle of the ARs, and that actually is a decent scope. And I've seen it somewhere on one of these listings, internet listing, morning, of the 5 best carry handle scopes. And there's only two of them. There's this Barska one I got off of Amazon for about 100 beans. And then I think the next one they had was the Brownells, which is three, which the two of them look identical. I mean, the thing, I've used them in the past before on carry handle guns many years ago, and the whole system with the little spring-loaded thing that you bolt down, kind of flimsy, but I got pretty good results. I don't know. I didn't post that video yet. I uploaded it. I was working with that stupid Caltech pistol. Wanted to get that done, and that is getting a lot of hype. That uh, let me get it the correct nomenclature. PR 5.7. Why PR? I don't know. Rotating pistol, rotating barrel. A lot of hype, a lot of people pushing it. It's different, and I kind of don't like 5.7s uh, because of A, the cost of the ammo, B, the grips have to be extremely long. I mean, this one kind of solves a lot of that. But I took it out. I think I got 70 rounds through it, and I had two malfunctions. I've seen other people reviewing this. Of course, they don't clean all that crap out of the pistol. They just take it out of the box, start shooting it. And I mean, these things are malfunctioning every second shot. Okay, every second round. The gun was atrocious. If I didn't have that happen to me, but Warren Peter, uh, I can see where it's getting a lot of negative reviews. Or if anybody watching this sees this, would see about the rear sight ramp. Always wondered about sight, rear sight ramp sights. You're talking about the scope that goes on the carry handle? More. I usually didn't use them. Well, ARs back when I got the one I had back in the 70s. Uh, Optics were hard to find, inexpensive. Yes, the optics. It's strange because it's angled and you're just clamping it with tension and you hold it. It's just a simple tube with crosshairs, nothing adjustable, 4 power scope. Which, when you look at the whole concept of the M16 rifle, cheap, simple, like the flip up sights. I'm going to get into that when I show how we progressed from the M1 Garand, M114 got into this and why it was a big deal back then. Okay, when you had the M3 grease gun, the Sten gun, uh, the MP44s and that were all starting to use stamped metals, which evolved into the SETME-C because it was cheap. It was cheap to make them, and they wanted an inexpensive gun to issue to the troops. It was simple. That's why you got the flip up sight. Put it in there, sight it in on that target, flip it back. I've never done that, even when I had one like that. You flip the sight back, and then from point blank to 300 yards, and then at 300 yards you go long range. Okay, that was the concept. Inexpensive gun, operates, made out of all them synthetic materials, where you had M1 Garands had adjustable sights. M1 carbines ended up, they had a simple flip sight, but by the time they modified them, they had a little intricate sight which you can dial in. And M14, same thing, same as the M1 Garand. You can dial them sights in. So the scope, there was a guy that set one up like that with a scope and went out and was hitting silhouette plates at so many yards, good distance, 500 yards, 600 yards or something, trying to see if this was a viable sniper type of thing or enhancing it, which it did. But all of us know the reason I really don't like scopes, I don't even put it on my hunting rifles, is because they're fragile. In a military situation, any type of an optic or glass optic like that, is going to get busted up. The guns themselves get beat up. If you look at any of these parts kits that they're building with original M1A1s that have been around for a while, them guns are beat to hell, and they're charging you some exorbitant amount of money for this parts kit on a gun that's been out there 30 years or something, got the snot beat out of it, and trying to assemble it, even if they gave you the barrel, the original barrel, which I think those are coming out, chances are they're shot out. So when I buy these retro guns, I really kind of like them. They're fun to shoot. It's a little bit different, but you anywhere you go, they're grabbing you. I was looking at getting XM70 177A2, but getting one that's long enough to have that flash hider, 4-inch flash hider, mounted and welded, to make it a rifle, so I can get something with a folded stock, because the little pistol brace looks like it, but it's just this thin, wobbly ass little piece of plastic. If you had a wider butt plate to get more of a solid feel on it, but then you got to go short barrel rifle. Even though you don't do the transfer, you got some damn thing that's registered and is not that easily transferable. In my state, my relatives live, or my nephew and that lives in a state where that's totally against the law. It's not legal at all in any way, shape, or form. A registered weapon in New York State can't happen, and AR-15s are not allowed in New York State. Okay. So, that's the long and short of it. But it works all right. I mean, I sighted it in. At 50, and I got to go, all I have is 100, 200, and I'd like to see how it works at that. And I'll sit down and do that. The weather's getting better. I'll be able to get down at a rifle range and that, and get some long distance. I still have to test that prototype thing I bought. I haven't even fooled with that. or go back with my 601 I built, and I'd like to take these out to 100, 200 yards, see how they shoot. And then what else am I going to say here? But I've been working with them, and like I proved with that Anderson at 50 yards was shooting 2-inch groups on average with the ammo. I found that Turkish ammo, I can get 1-inch groups at 50 yards with it, or a little less. And now I want to take that out and go out to 100, 200. And that's the only one I got with a 1 1/8-inch twist. I got that A2 style I built years ago with a carry handle. And that one is a 1 9. So I got a 1 8, 1 9, 1 7s, assorted ones. Some chrome line, some not. And then the 1 12s and a couple of those guns. So I'd like to see how all of that works out at distance. And it is strange. But that pistol, for some reason, that pistol build with the short barrel, I think that would be it's an 11-inch barrel. It loves that Chilean ammo, which that stuff is fairly accurate. I think it's not quite consistent. That's why I get these wild flyers with them. That's some kind of bizarre military ammo that it's kind of hard to find. Yeah, the M16. See, we had on the ship when I was in the 80s in the Navy, it was still 1911s and 45, M14s, M79 grenade launchers, and M60 machine guns. Okay, I fired all of those my time on the ship. They used to basically they take us out there just so the gunner's mate chief wouldn't have to take the ammo off that hit 20 years. And they get rid of it. But the hand grenades, that was only for the people that were designated for that. There are people that if the ship's anchored somewhere or something and they have a security alert or something, they will give you a case of hand grenades, and all you do is sit there. If they say swimmers in the water, they had people assigned go to different points of the ship, and you just chuck grenades into around the ship if they thought there was some sort of an attack from somebody underwater, swimmers or scuba men or however the hell they call it. But there was actually a job where you had to do that. So that was about the only time we'd use grenades, is in a defensive thing of the ship. And they threw them out there, but that I wasn't involved in that, but they did. They got rid of whatever was there, and everything goes over the side, and it's written off as expended. You see a lot of that. Still thank the Navy for the Mark 19. Is that the grenade launcher, the bread box or whatever? They ended up, when I got out, they went to the Gulf. They added all kinds of stuff. The ship was not originally fitted for 50 caliber deck mounts. We had to install them later because, well, the way the thing was designed in the Cold War, you'd never see what the hell you were shooting at, be it a plane or another ship, because over the horizon, all the weapons systems were designed to go over the horizon and hit these things before you even seen them. So that 1960s, 70s technology was not looking at people coming up with a rowboat and a rocket launcher. they had up on the bridge wings, they had pennels set up to mount M60s, but they'd hot swap it. When one ship pulled in, they'd give us one of them grenade launchers, and that was mounted up behind the main gun up on one deck. I guess if a small boat come up to us and got close, it was something that we can lob them grenades out and let them have it. Yeah. And even now, I guess I see videos where any deck gun, be it, they even brought the 20 millimeter Oerlikons back. Okay, they got rid of the 50s. That wasn't good enough because you just pull the pin out and that friggin' thing just went wherever. They brought back the Oerlikons, the 20 mils, and then now I guess they got something. You sit there like a video game. The whole damn thing is automatic, and whoever operates it just sits back there, and it's got a camera and everything, and you just remotely operate the thing. So it's like the Sea Whiz. The Sea Whiz, I helped them load it a couple times, the drum on the ass-ended ship there. But now I see them, they got some kind of device stuck on the side. It's a camera or sight or something, which in my time, they didn't have that. My buddy, it was a missile tech, showed me, he goes, this weapon's so easy to operate, even you could do it. And all it is a damn cover with a switch. It's on and off. You pull the red cover up, switch it on, and anything flying around behind the ship over 600 miles an hour, it automatically shoots. It doesn't identify or not. You just turn it on and away it goes. So, pretty cool. How you doing? Yeah, they had them, in the old days, they had a whole bunch of them everywhere. They were anti-aircraft rolls. But they had to use them again because the ship was not designed for some small craft, to come up like Somali. It's a fishing boat. It's a wooden fishing boat. Okay. It isn't even a patrol craft or a torpedo boat, which, the radar and that should be able to pick it up. It's just you had these people in a damn rowboat coming up and shooting at you. So, and actually in Yemen, that's what it was. It was just a civilian boat loaded with Syntex that the massholes drove up and blew a hole in the side of the ship, 20 feet wide. That's how big the explosion was. Yeah. The system, yeah. Yeah, I believe the Army even fitted remote control guns on some of the vehicles. You run them buttoned up. I know the Russians got something they mount on a turret on there, but I don't know. I just worry about tinkering with my retro rifles and my other AR-15 armory here, which that's another thing. If you're in the AR-15s, there's a lot of deals out there, or if you want to chunk one together, stuff, they're running sales on everything. That's another thing that's popular. Instead of they were selling for $700 one day. This is about 10, 15 years ago. And then the panic starts and it goes right to $1,300 right at the gun show. The guys were changing the price tags. And by Sunday afternoon, they sold all of the inventory. It was pretty wild. But we got to wait and see what happens. Everybody's getting worked up that gas is going to go up. I got to wait till about 7 o'clock tonight when the market opens for silver. Silver got beat down to about $70 from 125, and now it's back up to 93. And much like in the Ukraine, I believe this current war that we're in is it's all missiles, high tech, and drones. I was watching some of the stuff going on in the Ukraine from both sides. But there's a guy, Patrick Lancaster, he's with the Russians. And all it is the guys were going out checking on civilians down around Kursk and them towns. And they were just driving around, either transporting the civilians the hell out of there or bringing them food and stuff. And the whole time, this wasn't like a front line operation, but you hear this buzzing noise. And I mean, these guys shit a brick and run for cover. And what they're doing is driving in these vehicles with, 30-inch barrel duck hunting shotguns. And I don't know if they used AK-74 rounds with the shot pellets, but they are just hauling ass down the road. And these guys are on the back of a truck or whatever, shooting at these drones with shotguns. It's pretty wild. And, a couple of them were going, and I mean, they're doing 70, 80 miles an hour. And they'd hit something. All they do is take a mortar shell or something and put it on the bottom of these. And then the weird thing is they got jammers. So they got all these jammers that jam the drones. So then they run them with a fiber optic spool. I don't know how many miles it is. But when they go through these towns, you see all this weird white cables and lines everywhere. That's all from the drones. That when they send them on the fiber optic cable, it's all fiber optic cable strung out all over the place. It's weird as shit, to see that. You never really see nobody shooting at nobody or nothing, but it's pretty crazy. And Venezuela. I was just going to bring that up. Yeah, that's what a lot of people are thinking that, okay? Because the first things they did when they got rid of the Ayatollah, or he was killed, the first thing they did, I guess they struck some oil wells in Saudi Arabia. And there were a lot of people saying that this, to do this would create a disruption of the global supply of fuel and energy, which, but I don't know, when they did it with Saddam, set all the damn oil wells on fire in Kuwait. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it was a problem. But this, of course, Saudi Arabia is the biggest oil production place there. And they attacked that air base we had in Saudi, which was absolutely. Well, I'm going to go out today. I think I got a gas receipt somewhere. Here, let me look. People ask me why I keep all these little bits of paper. I got to go put some gas in the car just for the hell of it. My wife went out yesterday. Let me see. Price per gallon. Last time I bought it on the 18th, it was $2.59. So $2.60 is the last I paid here locally. And it varies from counties, states, whatever. So that's the last one I got, and I'll save my other one for that way I have correct, verifiable information. Okay, 150 cents a gallon. So at that would mean that gas would be 3 or more. So we'll see. I don't do much dry. It's going to be cold again, so I'll be in the house like I have been. I finally did get my upload speed back because I was struggling all during the week. The weather was shitty, but I'd get 2 videos uploaded in a day, maybe not, to where whatever the hell they're doing with Spectrum, I got to where I got 5 or 6 loaded, so I'm good for the week. Let me see what I got. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 4. So after today, I got 4 on deck. 1. I still got to go and review. Well, I did review the pistol, and I want to review some of the other stuff. I had that scope. Yes, that you're going to see it because they're saying just what they use for electronic solar panels and these missiles. Okay, this is the deal here. I guess they had one of these guys that survived the attack saying, we're taking all the low end stuff in our inventory, which makes sense, stuff that they can easily shoot down with Patriot missiles. And he goes, we're launching all that stuff. Okay, so when they launch that, and then somebody who's explaining with them Patriot missile batteries, and I know I've been in the military, half of this crap they say works one way doesn't not really work that way. So they usually launch 2 missiles to intercept, and if they're really nervous, they launch 3, which these things ain't cheap. And if they're just sending all these missiles, saving the better ones, to expend all the defense missiles, okay, this is where it's expensive. It's going to get crazy. Okay, so you still, it's like California out there. Because I forget one guy that retired from the Navy, and he'd post what the gasoline was when he went to either a gas station down the street or the base exchange in San Diego. And it is way higher there than it is here where I live. Okay, and you're up where? I remember you're in one of them north mid. I don't know if it's where you were. I did remember at one time what state you were in. But yeah. See, it was like 3, it got up to about 3 and some change. So I'm going to say 325, 330 or something. And it was like that. Then it dropped below 3 and got down to this 260 here recently in North Carolina, at least where I am. That'll vary if you go to the larger cities or something, because it goes by your county. There's a county tax added onto the gas, which adds that extra 10 cents or 20 cents or whatever the hell. But I don't ever know. It might have gotten up to 4 at one point in time. But yeah, that's what I'm telling you. It's 260 on February 18th. That's what I paid. Yeah, okay, so that's about what we have here in North Carolina. We're up there in Indiana. Okay, I know you're up in Oregon, but we're CM Sailor is there. I forget exactly where he is. Colorado or something. I'm thinking like that. I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, California is $6 a gallon. Yeah, I mean, you need $6 a gallon. Oof. All right, yeah, that's true. The high octane and the specialized gas is more, but 255 is about what we're paying. Upper LA. Oof. Well, Los Angeles County or Orange County or something in the military when I was stationed in Long Beach. That was the highest when you lived off base with your family and you got your per diem. Uh, as far as the Navy was concerned, that was the place where the one base was that was the highest cost of living stateside to live off the base was uh, LA County or I think because it's Orange County. I think the county is Orange County and Los Angeles, or is LA a separate county? I kind of don't know. But we were considered living in Los Angeles. Yeah, so we're going to see how all this turns out. But with the missiles and that, that's expensive. Okay, and that's going to, I guess if you got stocks in a company that produces rockets, you're going to do good. I don't know because this is what this is turning into. And I guess they went to town over there. Somebody was mentioning Pakistan attacking Afghans, bombing strategic things. I don't know if they're just blowing up all their heroin stockpiles or whatever. Orange County, okay. And work in LA. All right. Because I had a great uncle that he lived out there before he passed away. And that was back in the 70s and 80s. He lived in Orange County in Santa Ana. I was out there and visited him once when he was got diagnosed for cancer. So I spent some time out there years ago before I was in the military. Savage NRA Model 19. I think I've seen something on that. That I'm not familiar. I'm not familiar with that. So I never really got into 22s. I know there's people that collect the military 22s. The only one I ever had was the H&R. With that, it looked like it was kind of like a rising submachine gun. You had that little cocker level underneath, and it had a 10-round mag, and they fired that. That was used as a training rifle. I bought that one. I had that for years, so I had to sell it to buy the house. That's when I eliminated my gun collection. But that one there, don't know. Iranians are celebrating. Yeah, I'd seen that too. Some are celebrating, or who the hell knows what's real or what's going on there. Gentrified. Yeah, I was out there in 1979, 1980. Okay, I remember when I was stationed there, I just went out for a drive to go through. I went through the old man. I found a place where my great uncle lived. I drove up into Santa Ana and that. And yeah, it changed. Everything has changed. A lot of people that around here that have family or came from California went to like Oakland and San Diego. One person was from San Diego and went back there. And I was back there 2014 was the last time I was in California. But yeah, it's a lot different, and then I guess from what I see in videos, it's beyond terrible. And even Seattle, I knew somebody that was working up in Seattle and went to downtown Seattle, um, and I guess them streets that we walked, because when we come in there was a Liberty Port, so we pull up Pier 70 and walked right into the middle of downtown, down to the worst section that there was with all the merchant sailor halls and everything, And uh, they say it's you don't go there alone. You go in a group of people because it's dangerous and stuff. And they're laying there on the sidewalks. That ain't no Southern California up there in Seattle. It's kind of cold and miserable all the time. Same with San Francisco in the Bay. That ain't no balmy, tropical paradise, either one of them places. Didn't say I didn't think it's real, okay? Oh, all right, maybe it is. But yeah. So are they celebrating? It appears that they are. I didn't say it wasn't real, but you don't know what is true or not. Okay. They said they hit them bases. Bahrain is where, when you're on the flagship, uh, is usually an amphib ship, got a admiral on it, home ported in Bahrain, and we have some kind of deal where those ships that stay there uh, can only be in port 14 weeks out of the year or something. So we do have a base in Bahrain. We got the air base in Saudi Arabia, and I forget what else. They were hitting mostly radar stations. The Navy does have radar listening posts all over, and I guess they were blasting them. Uh, but yeah, yes, it is. And like I said, I guess something I've seen on the news where the Pakistanis are attacking the Afghans for whatever reason. Uh, could be a disagreement over ideology. Yeah. Well, San Francisco historically has been kind of the Sodom and Gomorrah of the United States. It was weird back in the old days, you know, um, and always has been very unique people that live there that express their ideology. Well, it's kind of like the when they got rid of the Shah, and I know why they got rid of the Shah of Iran. Okay, it's kind of just like Cuba. You got these people that took over that, you know, they ain't gonna change. And nobody, I don't care right or wrong, nobody likes to lose power or control over a government or anything, regardless who they are. So even though, they say they got the Ayatollah, uh, I don't know uh, if the regime will change or politically. And of course, you got China and the Soviet Union supporting these people. They're going to be like Iraq. They got rid of Saddam, but their idea of not taking the Ba'ath Party in and working with these people to kind of keep things stable there was a mistake. Okay, and that's what started this insurgency. I don't know if it's ever ended. Even now, it's still a problematic thing. What do I think about a Yugo? If you want one for your collection, they're decent guns. It's how much you're going to get it for and that, and what it's exactly worth. I'm not sure. Okay, I don't know a current price. Everything's kind of in flux. Things have gone up, but I'm seeing what the economy sucking in a lot of these auctions. That's why I'm watching auctions. I'm seeing that prices on some surplus stuff is coming down. Okay, of course, some people selling it are not going to reduce the price, but if you're in an honest open auction, I'm seeing like, well, that Star pistol, them things were going for $450, $500 8 years ago. I got the thing in that Bandit thing. I only put a 180 unit bid on it, but by the time I paid the 26% friggin' auction fee and everything else and the transfer fee, it just come under, like $5 under 300 bucks. Still not a, as far as I'm concerned, compared to what it used to be, it wasn't a bad buy. And they're not being imported. Them older ones from the 40s is what I needed as a whole, fill a hole in my collection. But, and that was all by mistake. I'm all right. Okay. All right. Good to see you again. Yeah, you may get it could happen. That's another thing I'm wondering is why they're not striking here in the U.S. And people are going to get a damn rude awakening uh, if they have acts of terrorism. Now, it could happen, or all of this is just political theatrics. Okay, who you don't know. You don't know for sure. That's kind of what I was saying. Is you don't really know what the hell is going on. Okay. It's expanding. The XM 16A1, I'm probably going to procure that next once I get some funding. But I'll have another one on there. Like I said, I want to go out and shoot a couple of them other guns, the prototype and that. That I just haven't been able to do with the weather and working on other things that kind of I want to get out of the way before I do that. But it's going to be a good collection. That's another thing. A lot of money tied up that nobody's going to pay me and get my money back out of it. So I guess that's going to be a permanent part of my collection. Yeah, I don't know. But then again, you still had these people. It's like Russia. They just had this group that ruled everything. And once they died of old age, they ended up not knowing what the hell to do. And I think that's what's going to happen in Cuba. It's going to happen in this country. Because all these politicians we all talk about and hate and everything, they've been in Congress and the Senate for 40 years. All right. They're losing their power. There's going to be a shift, even in our own government. But who the hell is running things more or less, or the face of who these people are going to be? Which it probably was. It was brought in all those years ago. Um, so, I don't know. No, it is Bomb, 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 Bomb Iran. I remember that song. It was, they just changed the words to the old Beach Boy uh, song. No, I haven't. No. So yeah, we're going to see gas prices, whatever, stock market, the metals. Who knows? Okay, very uncertain. Yeah, that's I forget. I have one of them. It's got a special designation. It's not a Yugoslavian produced gun. It's a reworked German K98. I guess they made the barrels, new barrels and stocks and everything for them. When they brought them all in, you used to be able to get brand new stocks and brand new 8 millimeter Mauser barrels. All they did was grind the receiver and take the Nazi stuff off and then put a Yugoslavian crest. Or no, they didn't. Some of them didn't have a crest on them because they were made as sterile weapons. There's a designation for that rifle, and that was to be kind of handed out covertly during the Cold War. I mean, the French made the P-38s, which just has an asterisk on the front of the frame and a serial number. They made sterile KR-98s. The Spanish reworked their guns and took all the markings off of them, be it either 7 millimeters or they converted them to 308. So a lot of countries post World War II either refurbished or manufactured firearms that were devoid of any markings other than a serial number. Okay, and that was done by several countries, and that one I think you're describing, if you looked at it through the Cosmoline, if it's a German style KR98, that's what that is. Something like that. For deniability means without markings in Yugo, apparently. Yeah, because I find Spanish rifles that the Spanish reworked them, and they either did the caliber conversions to 308 or they just refurbed them in 7 millimeter, but they took all the markings and stuff off of the rifles, and they all show up with brand new bluing and everything in pretty good condition. Scouting America. Yeah, that nobody even talks about that no more ever since the Epstein files have been released. But we'll see. So yeah, who knows? But that rifle, let's take a look. M9848. All right, so you have what is called captured K98 partisans. Okay. shooters. Yeah, they initially started with captured Mausers, and it does have issued to bolt action Yugoslavia. Design Mauser. Replaced with Yugoslavian ones. 44. Yes, you'll get. There's two versions of that rifle. The ones that were done. Okay, some will have a crest and were issued to the standing army, and some of them were sterile without the crest that were sent out. There's two different variations of that. Back on this channel, they're deleting main channel comments. Just want another range toy. See, a lot of them Yugo guns were brand new, okay, when they came in back in the old days. You know, that's why I kept it. That was a mint reworked Mauser. It just didn't have German markings on it, and it was not very expensive. Because at the time, I think I picked that up for like 120 units, and it was a mint KAR 98 reworked. Shoots well, still does. And at the time, to get a nice German one would have been, if you could find one, 3.5 and up back then. And that was a very, very long time ago. It was over 40 years ago. See, it's tough. Mint German KAR 98s were still around in the 70s. Okay, I forgot some guy said back in the 50s before you had to get a dealer's license and an FFL and all this other crap. He used to just drive down somewhere and buy a case of brand new mint rifles, take them to the gun show, put it on a table, open the crate up, mark them up, you know, whatever he paid for them, and just sell them. That was before he even had to fill out any paperwork. And the guy goes, he did that 2 or 3 times a year, sold a case of KAR 98s at a gun show. Okay, it was a different world back then. And every now and then back home, I'd run into one of them that somebody had. They cleaned the Cosmoline out, but they were 44, you know, made rifles that there was a ton of that stuff after the war floated around, was shipped everywhere on the face of the earth. Not counting all the stuff that was left behind in all these countries in Europe that were gathered up and put in storage. That's where a lot of that stuff come from here recently. You find the 98s, but the Yugoslavs manufactured them guns, and they had a lot of the bolt action rifles. They just kept manufacturing them, putting them in storage. They used to sell them on an open market. How the hell that worked, I don't know, but it's kind of like after the war, Yugoslavia became internationally where you could go and buy tanks and guns and all this other stuff. Somehow they accumulated all that stuff in that country. Yugo 44. And they would sell. I mean, Israel bought a ton of armored vehicles and aircraft and everything from Yugoslavian arms dealers. All right. And actually, Israel, when it first had all them KR-98s, and I think they buy anything and everything they can get their hands on down there. So yeah, another interesting uh, group of stuff. Let's see what he says here. Was a non-aligned state. Yeah, but I met a lot of Yugos that went over and did construction work under Brezhnev in Russia. The Yugoslavians were known as excellent concrete and construction workers. They did a lot of work throughout Soviet Union. Yeah, because Czechoslovakia was like that too. They designed all these weird guns that weren't the Soviet standard. So even though they were in there, these countries didn't quite, like you said, didn't quite get along with the Soviet thing. But Yugoslavia is, what do you mean by non-aligned? When the Warsaw Pact would mobilize, Yugoslavia played a pretty big role in it. Yeah, turned into the police departments. Oh, look at those Austrian straight poles, the M95s. They're from World War One, and still floating around. You know, you still find them. All right, go check. You know, you still haven't. You didn't ask, or you didn't ask them what the price was. You know, that's the thing. Because I forget what the. I forget what they go for now. Usually, Yugos go anywhere from not the rework KR-98s like this. They're 350 to 450 depending on condition or how you buy them from. So I don't know. It's a tough call. Cause war in the Middle East. Good times cause war in the Middle East. Weak men cause war. All right, that's a pretty good way of looking at it, I guess. 550 to 750, huh? Yeah, maybe for the KARs like that, yes, because they are just like a German one. All right, well, could be. He was in control, and from what they told me after he was taken out of, or after he was gone, that whole war erupted overnight, and a lot of the people there didn't even know why. But who knows? Yeah, because there's some things that I like, like these retro guns. They're overpriced. I buy them because I like them. Probably never going to get the money on them because they're not as popular. Some people like them. Vast majority of people, why are you going to pay close to 1K for something that's old fashioned and old design when for, 4.5, you can get an AR that you can clamp lights, lasers, and all kinds of fun stuff on and change. So it's like that. I just believe there's a lot of younger people that are getting into collecting milsurp, And these people are also the ones getting hit hardest with the economy, with the money. Well, even older people like me, it ain't easy. Okay. Uh, the only kicker is, you know, when it was high, you didn't want to sell off your collection, but now, it is softening. You see it coming down. M39s are over. Okay, yes, that's true. And that is a very good statement. You have to closely look at what the prices are. And I told you guys again and again, go to Lock, Stock, and Barrel. They run an auction every 2 weeks on Gunbroker, and they have an assortment of stuff: ammo, magazines, black powder, repro guns, decent guns, common guns, a lot of mill surplus, shotguns, everything. How they work, I'll explain it again. Is if you had, I put some stuff in auction once. And what I did is you call them up, and if you have enough, when they make these big sweeps, they'll come. They came to my house, two guys, explained to me how the system works. What it is whatever I give them, okay, it starts at 0 or 1 cent and goes up. Whatever the hammer price is, be it a few hundred or 1,000, okay, the buyer does not get charged a percentage. He gets charged sales tax and shipping, okay, which they're kind of high. It's $50, $60 a gun, a long gun or something. Um, but he doesn't pay no percentage. Whatever the thing is, so if it's $500, then 20% of that goes to them. And that's what I get net, is 20% minus 20% back of the hammer price. Okay. I've bid on their auctions and I've sold on their auction, and they're fair. Some of the things I had in there went for more than what I thought. Some of them went for what I had into them, the more odd and unusual guns. So I lost 20%. Okay. But overall, from my losses and my gains as a grouping, what I gave them, basically, I ended up netting the same amount that I had in them, which for me was perfect. I didn't lose more than what I put in to the guns. So that kind of was fair. All right. I use that. You go to the gun broker, and if you see something you like, just put it on your watch list. Then when the auctions end, you can see what they close for. And it's probably the most honest place, because I've seen M44 carbines, Mosin Nagants, on some of these dealers that are still on there, that this gun went, it's at the max at the time, 405, okay, went for $1,300. Now, there's no way in hell anyone's paying it. So what happens is, and I kept the thing in my ended watch list, and I went, they had another one come up about a month later, and I looked and I checked. It's not the same serial numbers, it's not the same gun. But some of these people bidding on it starts at 0 and starts going up. So I just said, all right, let me see. And I start bidding, and I keep getting outbid by this individual, an individual there. And I went through $500 bid on it, and then it went immediately, like, 550, and I left it there. And I said, let me see if this goes up to $1,200 again, and it didn't. Okay, nobody bumped the bid, and then that's where it stayed. So I can't prove it, but yeah, a lot of them are fake and a lot of them draw the price up. It's kind of like a lot of the finish rifles. Okay, they're all at $700-800, and some people just start them off there, and you'll see that the best thing to do is you go in an auction there, you figure out what you want to pay the max, bid that. If it goes over, okay, leave it alone. Because there's stuff on a gun broker that's listed way high. And yes, so that's a tough thing to use, but use lock, stock, and barrel, and they give you a pretty good idea of the market. All right, glad you made it. See, because you're not going to find them reworked German ones. You'll find Yugoslav rifles, but not the reworked German ones. And best thing to do is go to type that info in there and see if you can go to True Gun Value. I know a lot of times you come up dry with some of the odd things and that, but just type in that and it'll list everything that's sold in auctions and that, and you can try to find if your thing's there, or just constantly monitor these auctions uh, and find them, and then just put them in, like proxy bid or something. Put them in your watch list and see what they close for. Yeah, that's a good way to also gauge what the going rate is. And also with that, I've seen one auction, because what happens is a lot of people will dump multiple like Japanese Nambus, or you see like one guy had a pile of AR-15s, Andersons, whatever, just generic ARs. They had like in one auction, they must have had 15 of them. Okay. And I think when they list it like that, that throws the auction off. If you got so many choices. So then it became, I was in there. I said, I pay X amount for each one, right? Went down, and then of course somebody go up. Some went up 100 more. Some went up $50 more. Okay. So a used generic AR-15, if you can get 3 for it, or depending on what comes with it, mags, a sling or something, you might get 3.5. Okay. That's not for Colts. That's just for the generic bottom rung budget ARs. Okay, not a lot of money. If you take it to a pawn shop, they probably only give you $200 if you're lucky. Whatever the market will bear, whatever. It's kind of hard. Yes, that's what they're saying. We'll see what happens. All right, thank you, Carson. Have a good week. But yeah, it's tough, because the economy does suck. People don't have money. I mean, they keep running sales 9mm ammo. I mean, it's crazy. What I get emails 5 times a day telling me, "Hey, we lowered the price," and they're going lower and lower, which means they're not selling it, no matter what they tell you. All these guns, they're going to have another round of these flash sales or whatever. Yes, they do, and they also run their own auctions from a website, but that's usually much more of the more expensive things, because a lot of people with some high dollar stuff or really nice stuff don't want to start with the penny and go up. And they do run periodic auctions off a website, but that is more, like high dollar Winchesters, Colts, and they people do give them some decent material, to put up there. You know, when you start getting over a couple grand, you kind of don't want to run it on a gun broker auction. But they do several things, and they're pretty good about coming and picking up the stuff. You know, you call them on the phone, talk to them about, tell them what the hell you want to sell, and because a lot of these places, I tried it once just before the plague, and I had a pile of guns I wanted to sell, you know, and then if it's enough that they will make something in the commission, and I got to send them photos with a description and all that other stuff, they were going to come. But then a year or two passed by, they called me back. And out of the 5 items that I had, I just went about and sold 3 of them myself. So I only had 2 items. And they said, well, we're not driving to your residence, but if I would drive an hour somewhere here in the state and meet with them where they're picking up a larger collection, that I could give it to them then, which kind of would be less than trying to mail it and go through all this stuff. Uh, yeah, because they're asking a lot of money. See, the one thing about lock, stock, and barrel uh, is, you know, when you start off at a penny, it is just an open auction. And there's enough people with confidence in there if they really want it, they'll bid it up. But like I was saying, when they dump a lot of it, sometimes I've seen items like say a Nambu pistol or a mill surplus rifle go for a good price. Okay. But then say a month later, they have an identical item, identical condition that will not go. It'll be less. So you're always taking a risk in a fair auction, that, you know, at the time somebody's paying attention and will, you know, bid on it. I know one of the sellers, I've offered a trade and a lower bid, but won't budge on the price. Right, because it's like something that, you know, in the past 5 years, I ran across once, and I paid some money for this example of this handgun, say, which is kind of hard to find. Okay. And if I put it up for auction, I'm going to make money or I'm not going to sell it. Okay. And trades and that, I don't want, you know, when I sell something, I want cash. I don't want trades. All right. And I ain't going to lower the price on certain things. Simple as that. You know, so that's one way of looking at it. And what you're talking about, Sharps Beauchart model 1878 military. Yeah. How often do you find one of them? Okay. Uh, you don't. So that's a tough call. Yeah, that's true. I go to the gun show and you see the same people with the same stuff, ridiculous price. They really don't move anything, but I don't know if that, you know, their intent is just to go there, because see, they could be buying, selling, trading stuff outside the gun show or something or whatever they do, or they just don't care. Okay. All right, then what if there's several listed on the gun broker? You just don't like the price range of these things? Let's look. Sharps. Sharps. Bow Sharps. And that's 1878. Okay. Several listed on the gun broker. Let's see. That is an unusual gun. That is one that all right, let's take a look. Tells me that there is nothing unless we spelled it wrong. Okay, buy it now. $2,000. Okay. $6,000. I only found let's see if I can find what you're talking about. Boom. Shoots in. $5,000, $2,000. Yeah, they're quite expensive. Oh, that's a bargain because I see 2 and 5 for what's there. All right, let me see if I can find that. Jeb Stewart. Yeah, I found that one pretty easy. Yeah, 2K. But what they're worth exactly now to say, I remember looking at them and you were looking at a K or something, but I've kind of given up on the old antique stuff and making the ammo for it and that. And matter of fact, I may be phasing my stuff out. All right, so what do you think they're worth? $800, $600 or something? Okay. A lot of times you can't look at it. If you got something like that, and you're not really a dealer, or even if you are a dealer, okay, you're not going to give the stuff away. And I mean, you keep it in inventory until somebody pays you the money. I mean, the reason I get all these budget guns and they cut the prices is because they have many of them stacked up. Okay, even the surplus stuff has dropped. They pistols and that they want X amount of dollars for, and you don't see it. The only one that I see that makes out is the Mosin crate. Whenever he gets the stuff, he prices it, and sometimes his prices are a tad bit on the high side, but he just has a marketing strategy where whatever he lists there, man, he sells that stuff out. There's very rarely anything that doesn't go instantly with the way he does that. Okay, he just has a following, and he has people that likes doing business that way. I've gotten 2 or 3 things from him, but that's what you can do. Wait and look. Okay, well. See, I don't know. I've looked at a few of them before when they popped up to add to the collection. Okay, I forget. It may have even been on Rock Island. Rock Island, Morpheus, and then there's another one that does a lot of older antique guns. And sometimes I've made out on them, and sometimes I have not. Okay, the prices get high. It depends. If you have somebody that's a collector and wants one, do I want one bad enough to pay 200 or 1,500 for? Unless I could actually handle the gun, see it, had plans for it, I can't really say. But if I was to where I was trying to build a collection of these guns, which I did, I still have that Navy Lee magazine rifle that I kind of got, I got screwed on it. I got it cheap, but they had the wrong bolt in it. Took me a year and a half to find the correct bolt, and the extractors break, and it's welded up. Okay, it's a casting. It's not a machinable part. I might be able to do it. I don't know. Uh, but again, the gun's in good shape. I'd like to take it out and shoot it. What I got into it, okay, kind of. Well, when I bought it, and if it was original and it was working and had the correct parts, it'd be fine. But it wasn't, and it cost me more to find the complete bolt and took 2 years to go into this thing. So, in a way, you didn't make out. That's why I kind of gave up on all of them. Because a lot of it's hidden. You don't know until you take the gun apart and then try getting it to work or shooting it and then find out that there's something not correct here. All right, take it easy, Peter. Yeah, so it's tough, and and most of the people that collect this stuff don't shoot it. Okay, they hang it on a wall and give lectures and display it maybe, but very few people go out and actually shoot them. The ones that buy it. Okay, I'm not saying I don't know what the value of them are. Okay, all I do know is when I seen a few of them, you're right, they were not that high. Okay, maybe they got bid up that high, but I didn't bid that amount of money on one. Okay, and I'm going back 10, 15 years. All right, a lot of people have gotten to where I've seen stuff on a gun broker that is insane. We're talking $400 guns they're asking $1,500 for, and they're not as hard to find as something like that. You're going to see a lot more of that stuff turning up because basically people who collect that are a bit on the older side. It's like the old Western stuff. Uh, and you're going to see a lot of this, more of this coming up. What you got to do is you got to go to a local auction and find one where no one knows what the hell it is and pick it up for $400. You know, it's like the Finnish guns. I found one because people don't know the difference between a Finnish made rifle and a Mosin Nagant. They see the action, think it's just $100 Mosin or $200 Mosin. Okay. But then when you get up to the M31s or M29s, like I think you mentioned, people are looking for $700-800, if not more. Okay. And to me, kind of, you know, not really worth it. You know, if I could see it, and I found a lot of the other guns, the M27s or whatever, they're all pretty much got crap bores in them. They were used during the war. Okay. Um, so they don't shoot as well as the others. But I lucked out. I went to that one stupid auction and it had a Mosin 91. I didn't want it. I wanted the other one with the Russian markings, and there was a third gun, and all of them had the bore shot out. Some assholes went, shot corrosive ammo, never cleaned the gun. They were toast. They were nice looking guns, and one of them went in that auction for over $500. And to me, they're not worth it. So I look at this rework, and I've made the videos. I picked that up for a song. I didn't pay hardly anything for it. I could resell that for a lot more money. And that gun is deadly accurate. Okay. That's just the way. And I wasn't going there to look at it. I was actually looking at a Spanish 1916. And again, it looked a little dirty on the outside. So I said, it's something I can clean up. I pulled the bolt out and looked. Gone. Again, corrosive ammo, never cleaned it. So a lot of these auctions, you got to be careful because people are dumping crap in there. And if you could go and sort it out, it's worth it. But like you said, yeah, $2,000's kind of steep for an old gun like that. You know, I wouldn't put it to you this way. I wouldn't pay it. Of course, I don't have a burning desire to get one. I did it one time and I looked at them, was thinking of adding it to all the rest of the guns in that time period. But even then, I always got outbid. You know, I didn't feel comfortable at the level. So I understand that. But I don't know. That's just the way it goes. That's what makes the hobby interesting. Well, all right. Let's see what we got. What'd you say? Yes, I don't have. I don't know if I do have an original one or not. I got a 1916, but I all think they were all captured by the Finns because that's where the hell they came from. Um, I don't have one that doesn't have an SA stamped on it. Of course, most of them, the Finns just took them, checked them out, okayed them, stamped their property mark on them, and let them go. Because I got the Westinghouse and that's still original with a Westinghouse barrel. So, other than the fact they stamped an SA on them, you could probably say that they are a Russian-built firearm, like my Setstroetsky. Okay, that's all still got the barrel and all the Russian marking, just has that SA on there. So yeah, I guess you could call those originals, because that's what they did after the war. They just, whatever they captured and had, if it was good, they check it out and they just, out it goes. Okay, so you don't know. That's an interesting venue there. All right, but like I said, guys, I've hit my limit here. Let's see, one last comment I have. To an M39. Well, where's this? Because the barrels are where the markings are. Okay. Still has Imperial markings, but then again, no, I just bought them. To me, okay, I didn't pay jack, you know, back in the time when these things, I should have just went and bought every single one of them old guns I could find. I didn't know what they were worth. I didn't know they'd end up being worth what they became. Okay. Nobody paid more than $180 for any type of friggin' Mosin. Okay. And they were all over the place. Nobody understood that. Nobody had any information. I didn't know what the Finns made. Okay. So who knows? You know. Now that I do, I try to assemble a collection. I know what the hell I'm looking at, but you know. Not spliced, not rebarreled. Yeah, could have been. I don't know. Well, all right, guys. Like I said, gonna get going. Thanks for everybody for showing up, and it was actually a pretty good discussion. A lot of input today, which made it interesting and not a bad turnout. All right, so thank you, gentlemen, and I will see you next week.